And continue learn the next book and the next chapter 6 of a family man.
Chapter 6. A Family Man. As a young man, Steve had plenty of
Chapter 6 a family man.
beautiful and intelligent
Family
girlfriends,
man.
including Chris Ann and the famous singer Joan Baez. Another girlfriend, Tina Redsey, had helped him through the difficult days when he was thrown out of Apple, but she and Steve sometimes had terrible fights. 5 years after the start of their relationship, Steve asked her to marry him, but she decided that it couldn't work.
As young man, Stephen played to perform intelligent girlfriend included the third man on the famous singer John Benz. Another girlfriend, Tina Redsing, when they found difficult and the throne and the Apple. But you think something entirely fine in the 5 years and the start of relationship, they ask of the many friends on the side of cold work.
Everything changed for Steve when he met Laureen Powell in 1989. He was giving a talk at Stanford University, and she was a business student there. After a short conversation, he arranged to take her to dinner that Saturday. As he drove away from Stanford, he changed his mind. He couldn't wait until Saturday. Although he had a work dinner that night, he didn't go. Instead, he and Laureen went to a vegetarian restaurant together.
Everything changed for Steve and Dale met Lauren Powell in the 1889. He was living in talk of Stanford University when he saw business student for the after school conversation and arranged to take her to the dinner that started Saturday. He was young for Stanford to join his mind of wait until Saturday and now to the hard work dinner the night the go instantly had Lauren on the vegetarian restaurant
Stayed together.
together.
The early days of their relationship were not smooth, and sometimes Steve thought about going back to Tina. He asked Laureen to marry him, and then he changed his mind. Finally, the two were married in 1991 by Steve's Zen teacher, Coben Chino. It was a quiet wedding with only 50 guests.
They studied together with early date. The relationship were not smooth together. He thought about going back. Tina, he asked Lauren to marry him. Understand his mind. Finally, the two were married in the 1891. Steve same teacher was called Chino. We watched kid given the only 50 guests.
Steve and Laureen chose to live in a large but fairly normal home in a nice part of Palo Alto in Silicon Valley. It was near the next offices, and it was a safe and friendly place for children. This was important because Laureen was expecting a baby.
Steve and Larry chose living in the large, fairly normal home in the next part in Palo in the Silicon Valley in the one next in the next office. It was safe and the friendly place of the children. He was important because Larry is expected a baby.
Their son, Reed, was born in 1991. A year later, Steve's 14-year-old daughter, Lisa, joined the family after some problems with her mother. As a young child, Lisa had almost never seen her dad. But Steve had started to take an interest in Lisa as she got older. She was an intelligent girl, but as determined as her father. Sometimes they were close, but at other times they had big fights. When she left home and became a writer, she and Steve sometimes didn't speak for years.
Their son Reed was born 1891 in a year late. Steve 40 years old. Lisa and John, the family after problem of the mother, and John Chill Lisa had most never seen his dad, but Steve started trading interest in advancing to the he got older. She was intelligent girl, but determined and her father something were close to the other time that he hide. He fight really love harmony because Brandon and she could say something with his big words.
Steve's next daughter, Erin, was born in 1995, and her sister Eve followed 3 years later. Laureen managed a vegetarian food business when she first married, but soon stopped work so that she could spend time with the kids. Although work often kept Steve away from home, he was careful to make time for them too. If they rang him when he was in a meeting, he was always ready to speak to them. The family went on lots of nice holidays in Hawaii and enjoyed time on the expensive boats of Steve's business friends. Later, when he had many billions of dollars, Steve had a private plane, but his way of life was surprisingly simple.
Steve was told everything was born. They are part of the city of the fall of the 3 years later managing vegetarian from business. They first married but some spotted for was to scope space time with his kid overboard the four kids seven from when the call for make it for the them two or Gary Howard was everybody was obviously to speak on the fact the family won the last night's holiday in Hawaii and Hawaii despite for boy was even popularity for many reasons. Steven Primer played with the all
Steve loved his work and his family, but he had many other interests. He enjoyed cycling, skiing, sailing, and walking in the California hills. He loved travelling too. Paris and Kyoto were two of his favourite cities.
Still loved work, and his family was had many other interests, skiing, studying, and the work in the California hills. Loved traveling to parts the covered two of favorite cities.
Around the time of Steve and Lorene's wedding, there was exciting news from Pixar. The company was planning a film with Disney. Pixar would make the film with John Lasseter as director, and Disney would pay for it. The film, Toy Story, was about toys who wanted their owner to play with them.
Around time, still Lawrence when the was started for need for pizza company was planning for the will Disney Pizza was made film the way John Lasseter the director and Disney World pay for it. The film Toy Story was about toys they wanted their hour to play with them.
The people at Disney loved the idea of the film, but they weren't happy with the story. Every time they saw Lasseter's work, they asked for changes. After Lasseter made all these changes, the Disney people were still unhappy. They decided not to go ahead with the film.
The people didn't love it. The idea for film weren't happy. The story every time the sound later would ask it of for changing after later was maybe changes the first thing copy the scene. With the film.
Steve, however, believed that Lasseter could make Toy Story fantastic. He decided to put some more of his own money into the film. Interestingly, he didn't suggest changes, as he always did with computers. He knew that he wasn't an expert in the film industry. 3 months later, he and Lasseter returned to Disney with some new ideas for the film. And this time, the Disney bosses were happy.
Okay, the people didn't love it. The idea for the film was very happy with the story. Every time the side left board decided for changing after last and when they changed the Disney people were still unhappy. They decided to not to go ahead with the film. Still, however, Bilal later to go make story fantastic. They to put some more the fund money in the film direction and the second child the always the compared he that the was spurred on the film interested the months later and they had lasted to the return to the days of new idea for film and the but they were happy.
Toy Story arrived in cinemas in time for the winter holidays of 1995. It was a huge success. 1 week later, Pixar shares went on sale, and they were amazingly popular. Suddenly, Steve's share of Pixar was worth $1.2 billion, 20 times more than he had ever put into the company.
The Toy Story arrived in cinemas in the time for the winter holiday in 1995 was hung success while way later pictures went to silent in my amazing popular suddenly was able to pay was $1.2 billion when times more than he had ever put into the company.
But Pixar was starting to achieve something much more important to Steve than money. It was becoming a company that every family in the world had heard of. By the time of Steve's death, Pixar had made 12 very successful films and won 26 Oscars.
But Pixar was starting to achieve something much more important to Steve than money. It was becoming a company with every family in the world that ever to the hear of. By the time and Steve dead, Behind Steve Davis, Pixar had made 20 very social film and won 26 Oscar. Thank you, teacher, for asking for me and the watching for watching for me my learn and the book. Thank you so much and bye. And the next chapter 7.